All right, most of us should be in now. So we are going to do another call on Business Tracker, the creating a collaborative experience in Business Tracker. I did this call, I think like 3 weeks ago now, 2, 3 weeks ago. Just curious, did anybody join that call and maybe take some of what was on that call into their business? And if they did, are there any follow-up questions that I can also try and hit in this second round of the call? No one? Any questions on Business Tracker in general that I can make sure I hit?
Yeah, I have some.
Sure.
I think I mentioned to you like in the past how like I have like my Zillow leads. I start like a business traction collection and send them all of that. I was wondering, is there like a way to organize the people that like I don't reach out anymore? Like I was going through it yesterday and I think I was like making inactive. And, like what exactly does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I guess my other like follow-up question is like if you make a business tracker inactive, does that make the collection inactive? I know they're tied.
Um, I don't know about that. I can test it on the call and see. But I can definitely help you kind of out with like how I organize my pipeline personally, and what I feel like kind of the best practices are for that. So when we get there. All right. Anybody else? Any questions or hopes of getting out of the call? Okay. All right. Well, we'll get started. So I'm gonna share my screen and we'll start in Business Tracker. Okay. So you guys can see this, I'm assuming here. Okay. So this is obviously Business Tracker. I've gone into a lot of different people's business trackers. Everybody kind of has a different formula for how they actually like to organize this. So for me, obviously everything's going to be separated out between buyers, renters, sellers, landlords, referred out. So if you have any referrals that have you've sent out, you can also track those in there if that folder has been shared with you by the referring agent. So I like to kind of separate this out. Initial contact, I would probably say I usually will keep that kind of clean, because either people are after that initial contact, I would feel like I have a good idea of even are they meant to be in my business tracker. No one would ever have a collection set up who I just had an initial contact with. So there's really not much of a reason in there to have them. So I would say most of the people who like I'll have an initial contact with, I'll either move to nurturing or it just might not be the right fit. I am a really big person on not clogging up my business tracker. Not that I don't like to do follow-ups. I know that's very important. So if you're somebody who you want to make sure that any person, you've ever even talked to once at an open house or, somehow they ended up in there and you guys have said the word real estate to each other once, if you feel like you want to keep them in your initial contact, by all means, that's fine. I just really like to make sure that the people who are in my business tracker are real potential leads for me to be working with. And then I kind of organize them from there. So my difference between nurturing and searching, nurturing are people who I've had a great conversation with. Maybe we've even gone through my whole buyer consultation process, which I can review a little bit today because I do feel like that feeds into Business Tracker a little bit for me. And then searching are really going to be people who I have set up in a collection currently, and we're actively going out together. So you'll see that there's like 16 people in there. So these are all people who real like probably also have, I would say, like somewhat of a need to buy maybe in like the next 3 to 4 months. So searching, when I think of like my day, because this is another question I get in my 3 o'clock call today is on collections for buyers. People always ask me how I make these very curated collections and how I have time to go through and manage all of them. I'm not managing 32 collections here, whatever it is. I'm managing maybe like 13 to 16 collections of the people who are actually actively working with me. So that's some feedback that I usually like to share here is just be, and this kind of goes back to the question that was just asked. If you have somebody, if you have like a lead source like a Zillow or a realtor.com or something that just generates a ton of leads, but they're very like ice cold leads, you really aren't sure. Maybe those are great people to put into initial contact. And then you come up with whatever system works best for you to actually let them pass through into the nurturing and then into searching. So my nurturing category are really people who I do know will likely buy at one point, maybe, maybe not, but it's looking that way. So those are the people like who I would count as like my follow-up people that are on my list there. And the same kind of thing goes for sellers, renters, landlords. I don't do a ton of rental work, but would be the same thing if that ends up being a majority of your work. Any questions or feedback on that I can answer of kind of my thought process there? Okay, cool. So then you kind of think, as you're going through your day, this is a very nice place. Some people, I feel like a business tracker, when it wasn't organized for me, this would be like a button. I was like, I never want to click this because I would jump into my business tracker. I'm like, I don't like seeing this $40 million number here and not knowing any of the names associated to that because it doesn't feel like a really tangible number for me to be able to actually get to. So that's when I really came up with that system that made a lot of sense for me. And then, of course, moving over a little bit here into in contract, this is really not something that I so much manage, just because I don't do my own compliance work. Our admin on our team will handle that, but it is a really helpful place for her to be able to go and keep in touch, not in touch, but keep our compliance updated as we're going. So basically, I'll move them from searching into and then move them into in contract, and she knows that that's her column to be organizing there. Of course, if you're managing your own compliance work, same thing. You probably don't need to maybe be checking that on a daily basis. But you know that when it's time to go out and close out those transactions, or you need to access one of those files, you know where you're looking. So you're not scrolling all the way through searching or wherever it is for that. Or worst case scenario, you didn't actually set up the folder until the day that they're closing, which even though no one wants to probably smile and admit it, we've all been there. So make sure that this is kind of like a step one of your process, making sure that they have a folder set up once you've kind of figured out what that qualification process I would say is before they actually make it into your business tracker. So that's a little bit of my thought process on that. Moving into, I guess, a collaborative experience in business tracker, I guess collaboration in here really only makes a ton of sense if you have other people who are jumping into these folders with you. So I'm going to open up one of these folders here. So you'll see that some people have, so was anybody on my call yesterday about the checklists? I don't know if anybody was. Okay. So yesterday I talked a little bit about checklists, which are basically either buyer or seller processes that are put into these checklists, and you can have them auto sync into anybody who then is categorized as a buyer or a seller. I don't want to over confuse everybody, but I did talk a little bit about how I have my own buyer checklist in there that goes through the process. Because this person, Angela, was a buyer, it knew to auto feed that checklist, or that process, I should say, into her business tracker folder, which is now why you see there's 14 tasks in here. So this has been complete. This has been complete, complete, complete. Thank you. See, like this is actually helpful for me because I haven't even been able to do this since they just actually closed like 2 days ago. So this is really why there's only 10 left now, is this probably started as like a 40 task checklist. And because that was in there, it was really helpful once they started going into once they went into contract for either myself or my admin to be able to come in here. And whoever did the task, we can check them off in this folder itself. So the next person that goes and jumps into this folder, you have an idea of where you left off at and what still needs to be done. So that's just another I guess, addition that you can add into Business Tracker if you feel like that's helpful for you. So you actually know where the client's at, more so than just in, searching and contract closed, but actually where they're at in that actual process and your process, I would say. So that's one thing in there. Everything else that has to do with the client, such as an accepted offer, that will be put in here. That all gets inputted. It'll basically prompt you to say, add accepted offer. You say, yes, add it. And it'll ask you for all the details. So closing date, acceptance date, close price, commission rate. And that's, at least for us, we don't have any like escrow process here. So I'm sure also if you're in a state where you have a little bit of a nuance to your process, it'll ask you for some details on that as well. This was not a Compass referral. If it was, then I would click on referred to me. That's when I could input all the information about the referral agent. The collection that we have set up for them will be linked and kind of merged into here. The tours that we took will also be added into here. And then if I ever did a CMA for them, that would also be linked in here. So whenever you go in and you actually add the clients into a bunch of these other Compass tools, this is kind of where it all melts together. So I would say like collaborative in the title of this session is really more in the name of this is where everything lies for the client. But one kind of preface on this that I do like to say, your client folder is only going to look this put together if you're using all the other Compass tools the correct way. So this is really the true melting pot of the entire Compass system. So that is kind of like on like its overview task of what the buyer folder should look like. Before I move into the file section and the rest of this, any questions that I can answer? Feel good? Okay, great. You guys are easy learners. We'll fly through this. So the next thing that I shared on the last call that got a lot of questions, and not a lot of questions, but a lot of people who wanted it, and it's already uploaded, so it'll be uploaded to this call as well, is my Google folder system. So another major thing I would say that we all have that relates to each client is a lot of different documents for the transaction. So Compass now has this file system as of about a year ago. You can either use your Google Drive, you can use Dropbox if you prefer that. And then, of course, we have Glide embedded in here as well as DocuSign. So if you wanted to actually get your transaction form signed in here, you can. That's fine, period. Full stop on the end of that. My only thing I will say is there's also a lot of other files that relate to the transaction outside of just maybe our agency disclosures or representation forms and whatnot. So there could be inspection reports maybe you want to put in there. There could be a vendor list. There could be a whole bunch of things that that would be great to embed here. And from my understanding, where Compass is trying to take Business Tracker in the future is to actually be able to have a client jump in here and use this as kind of a dashboard as well. At least that's my hope for the system. So having everything right in there will be much easier, much more collaborative, kind of take that whole collaborative system home.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
It might not really relate to you just because you're not in the market. I do a
Sure.
lot of like board packages.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing maybe that's what Compass is trying to do for the future, but would this be some place where you put all that stuff, or I don't, just because like I don't really know what else I'd be using it for Glide besides. I mean, I guess everything else you just mentioned, but like, would board package stuff be a good thing for that? I'm just trying to think like outside of the box, I guess.
Yeah. For sure. So yeah, I'll share what an example of one of my folders looks like. I think a board package is a phenomenal example of something that maybe isn't needed for in compliance to actually go and get paid, but it doesn't mean that it's not something you probably want to keep a really good track of, at least my OCD brain. Like I love a board package that scratches my itch for all my OCD for the year. So it'll be nice to be able to put that in here. So I'll show you the Google folder system that I think will make it a lot easier to kind of keep everything together. So that's something that is a Kate addition to this that I think makes Business Tracker a little bit more useful. And I'm sure Compass will eventually solve for that as well, so that you don't have to use a separate system and then embed it in. So yeah, so you can get everything signed in here. And this is how it looks like for me. I think this is the same thing for everybody. You can add it from library. You can also sync DocuSign into here if you want to. We have all these folders here for our documents. So you can just click the one that you need to have signed. And then you can keep moving through it. Are we all comfortable with like how to get, like if you're putting a document in DocuSign, getting it initialed and signed? I think we're kind of good on that. Okay. So you can, it's the same way, it'll prompt you to put in the signature and whatnot. So you can get all of that signed in here. When you go into the Google Drive, going to take another example of somebody who's maybe not linked yet. Let's see if these are. Oh, they are. Find another one. Okay. So this is somebody who doesn't have a Google folder set up yet, but let's pretend that they did. I'm just going to link them to somebody else. So when you click on Google Drive, if you use Dropbox, it'll be the same thing. It'll say connect. my Google Drive is already linked. So it'll prompt you to log into your Google account. I think that Google Drive is much easier to use than Dropbox because Compass already has us on like this G Suite system. So that's always been much more seamless for me. You'll be logged in, and then you go through this and you press connect an existing folder. Move you guys over. I create a shared drive, and all these directions will be in the one sheet that's attached to this call of how I set up my Google folder system. So I have a team drive. I have a folder called clients. I separate everybody out via like active, archived, and past clients. So we'll go on active clients. Then I separate them again by buyers, sellers, or referrals. And this is something that my admin helps me. I used to do it myself, but she helps me a lot with keeping it very up to date. So there's only people in here who are currently in contract, and so forth. So I'm just going to link them to my mock folder for now, but pretend that this said Tony. And then you press connect. Now this is completely linked to her folder. So even though it's not, a perfect system, I would say this is pretty much all you need. And the nice thing to be able to kind of note on this is this is a live folder. So it's going to directly feed just like a cloud-based system. When you go and update something and upload a file into this folder in Google Drive, it'll automatically update it into here as well. So I would have everything, and I'm going to go back, use our old example that I was just on, go back to Angela. We go into files, Google Drive, her folder's linked here. I have the commission invoice in here, just double click, everything's right there. I got their inspection reports, memo and fully executed contract, proof of funds, taxes, anything that related to them. So for example, a board package, you could probably have a folder called board package, then the address, and then you can have that separated out by as many folders as you want. When I go over and I need to pull anything for compliance, so like I need these two forms, I can upload. And then I have the option of either from like my desktop, Google Drive transaction forms with which would have been from Glide or DocuSign, however you just had it e-signature, whatever your e-signature portal is in there, or from compliance documents, which would be like if I uploaded a big packet here, and then I was trying to split it. That's what that would be. So then you could go into the Google Drive folder. It's already connected to here. I don't want to add it in because I'm waiting for the husband's signature yet. So then I would just, let's say this said New York State Agency Disclosure folder, double click that, check it off, just pretend like it's the commission invoice, check this off, and then you press upload. So because the Google folder system is, and the Google Drive is embedded in this already, it makes it much easier for you to also be able to pull your compliance directly from there. Any questions? Usually this sparks one or two.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I use Dotloop.
Okay.
I don't think here in the Midwest, we can do e-signatures on this platform yet.
Okay. It could be. It could be. So if that's the case and you're using Dotloop now, where do you keep the files once they're signed?
Well, we transfer them to Business Tracker from
Okay.
We set up the Dropbox account and then transfer them over. It's an extra step. I like
step. Yeah.
what you're doing here.
So this is, I was doing a very similar thing, not with Dotloop, but with DocuSign, which is why I ended up actually coming up with the Google folder system. I'm like, Kate came up with it. Like, I didn't come up with this. I just use Google folders, by the way. This is not me. But for me, the only thing I didn't like is that once I closed out a transaction, even though it was very organized in Compass, and I know that these, all of these, client files are saved somewhere in some archive thing. I've had Compass pull them for me after they've closed, but I didn't like that they weren't like readily available to me. I don't like putting everything into Compass only. So I figured, why don't I make my own copy first in my Google Drive, then I'll merge it into here, pull the compliance that I need to actually get paid, and then everything is still over in my file. I like grew up organizing my mom's files in our office, like her physical files. And this is kind of my version of that, of always having everything in writing, everything, over in just this electronic version. So I would say for you, maybe instead of that next step after Dotloop being right into Compass, into the compliance section, maybe throw it into a Google folder. And then I know it does technically add, I guess, one more step to merge it in, but at least you have an organized kind of file cabinet for yourself.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you use Glide now, correct?
What was that?
Do you use Glide now, I'm assuming?
I've actually stuck with DocuSign. So I kind of like it, and I don't know, my mom got used to it for 3 years. I didn't want to switch over to something else. So I like DocuSign myself.
You put everything into Google and then you transfer. So I was just wondering because I know Glide, when you send it via Glide, it goes straight into the system. So that's why I was wondering, but you've answered my question.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, you can do that, but my admin knows very well now. I always want my own copy. Google, if like when in doubt, Google Drive first, then worry about me getting paid with the compliance because I want to make sure I have that hard copy for myself essentially. Cool. Let me see if there's anything else. Is there anything else in here you guys need me to hit? I feel like commission and whatnot is kind of easy. We're all probably used to that one. Hopefully no one's on this call being like, I have like 50 transactions I've never been paid for. I don't know how to do that. I think this is pretty much everything in here. Let's see. Yeah, that's most of it. And I did the checklist call yesterday. If anybody wants to go back and watch that.
Hey, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, please.
When you click on files, when you're in Business Tracker and you click on files and it says Dropbox and Google Drive, Dan already addressed that e-signatures isn't there. Is transactions supposed to be there? Because when I click on mine, I don't see the word transactions on the left.
Let me see. Let me pull it back up. Sorry, I have you guys in the way. I don't see do you mean transaction forms?
Yeah, so on the left side, there's like 4 spots where you can click on transaction forms,
Yeah.
e-signatures. So I only have, anytime I click on a box, I only have Dropbox and Google Drive options. So I don't know if
So
transaction forms.
one has to do with the other. So the transaction forms and e-signatures rolled out at the same time. So if you don't have one, you probably don't have the other yet, but I'm sure they're going to get it out into your region soon. So you're not missing anything. If the two of them should either be there together or it's not gonna be like one or the other.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And definitely reach out to your AEMs and they'll usually have a good idea on the timeline or somebody they can reach out to about when that's going to be rolled out into your market.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Or if you're me, I never even use that anyway. So what I'm telling you to do, you can do even if you don't have it.
So you didn't hit on inactive. That's my question was in the beginning.
What was that? Sorry, it's kind of hard to hear you.
So I know you went through the process of how you do yours in the sense of like organization, but like if I want to make people inactive, should I inactive them or delete them?
Oh, let me go back in and do that. So I want to see who I can take out of one.
It's really hard to hear, Jessica. So could you repeat the
Yes,
question?
sorry. So the question is, if I am to take somebody out of, let's say, nurturing, does it remove them from the collection as well? If I'm right, Jessica, that's your question, right?
Not if you take them out of nurture. Me now or no?
Yes.
Something wrong in this room. I don't. Like if you push the 3 dots on like Christina, you can do make inactive or delete. And
yes.
I don't know the differences, and B is, as I've mentioned, some people have collections and they're not, I have a lot of people and it's becoming a hassle. So I don't know if I was making a lot of them inactive, but if that's the case, is that get rid of the what does that really do? I think is what I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. So if I was just going to make this person inactive, so it says we'll remove this folder from your active view. To find it again, filter the list for inactive folders. So this is basically, I think, just making it inactive seems to be just the same thing as kind of like archiving somebody. So you can go back and pull them out if they become active, but it doesn't need to also clog up your view and business tracker.
So with that, do we know, and I guess I could try to figure it out myself, but do we know if I make it inactive, does that also remove the collection?
So I'll mark him as inactive. For me, he's still in there, right here.
Great. Okay, I think this was helpful. So I couldn't make a lot of my people inactive.
You should or you shouldn't?
I should because
Yeah, you should, because it's just like archiving them. Yeah. Or you can keep them all over in like initial contact if it's not really something that you mind. If that's just kind of like your archive column, I would say, in the pipeline. Cool. Let me check the chat. I'll make sure. Okay, good. Alrighty. Thank you guys. So this will be obviously uploaded the recording, and then that one sheet about the Google folder system will also be on there. If you have any questions on it, let me know. You can shoot me an email. I think it's as clear as I could be. It basically just continues to indent as you go through the process, and every indent usually means another folder and then another subfolder of that. So keep me posted, especially Dan, if you have any questions on that, you can just reach out to me. All right. Thank you guys.
Kate, I have a really quick question for you. It's
Sure.
a little sidebar. I have a client, he's a little older. He opened collections once and now he says he can't find it or whatever, and he wants me to resend it. Can you resend a collection?
Can you resend a collection?
He accepted the invite. Yeah.
I think you can delete them. I have my collections call at 3. In between now and then, let me test it out on my fiance because he's used to me using him as my guinea pig over here. Let me try it on him and see if I can delete him and then re-add him into it to basically prompt a new invitation.
Okay, yeah, do that because I'm gonna come on your 3 o'clock call. So
Okay.
let me know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will. I'll start with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.